A city breathing, trading, fighting, unaware of doom. Stop 1. Billingsgate Wharf. Morning sickens into noise. The docks are chaos now. Grain sacks crash onto planks. Rope lines snap tight as ships are hauled into place. A Flemish sailor shouts at a dock foreman who responds with equal anger despite understanding none of the words. Money translates well enough. This is where London's lifeblood flows. Wool leaves, wine arrives, silver moves quietly between merchants' hands. England is deep in the 100 Years' War. In wars eat money the way fire eats timber. Italian banking houses lend Edward III the gold he needs to keep fighting France. London's merchants profit from every shipment crossing the channel, but the dock workers hauling those shipments earn only 2 or 3 pennies a day. Enough for bread, enough for ale, enough to rent a shared bed with strangers. Nothing more. A labourer buys breakfast from a street vendor. Coarse brown bread. A mug of weak ale. Half a penny gone before the sun is fully up. Behind him, a sailor from Calais tells anyone listening about the sickness spreading through French ports. He swears it kills in 3 days. Black swellings, black fingers, whole streets abandoned. The dock workers laugh. Stop 2. Cheapside Market, mid-morning. If Billingsgate is London's lungs, Cheapside is its heartbeat. The street is packed shoulder to shoulder. Merchants shout prices. Apprentices sprint between stalls. Chickens flap wildly in wicker cages, while buyers argue over their worth. Wooden signs hang over every shop. A painted boot for the cobbler, a loaf of bread for the baker, a sheaf of cloth for the tailor. Most people in London cannot read. Pictures are enough. The houses here lean forward over the street like conspirators. Upper floors nearly touch across the narrow road. Neighbours can pass a mug of wine through their windows without stepping outside. A baker's wife argues with a fish seller. Prices again. Bread costs more this year. War taxes, poor harvest. The baker sighs and pays anyway. Hunger is not negotiable. Near the centre of the market, 2 constables drag a young man through the crowd. His crime? Stealing bread. By noon, he will sit locked inside the stocks, head and hands pinned between wooden boards while the crowd throws rotten vegetables at him. Justice here is fast, and very public. Stop 3. A merchant's house. Midday. Near the shadow of St. Paul's Cathedral, London looks different. The streets widen, the houses grow taller. Stone foundations replace rotting timber. Inside one of these homes, a wealthy wool merchant sits at a heavy oak table. Dinner is the largest meal of the day. Roasted pork, white bread, imported Gascon wine. Servants move quietly between courses. Outside the doorway, beggars wait for scraps. The merchant reads a letter from Bruges. Trade remains strong, but rumours grow darker. Villages in Flanders emptied by sickness. Ships arriving with half their crews dead. The merchant frowns. Not from fear, from inconvenience. Plague is something that happens to poor towns and poor districts, not to men who live behind stone walls. Stop 4. Southwark. Afternoon heat settles over the river. To reach the other London, you must cross London Bridge. It is the only crossing for miles. Houses crowd the bridge itself, leaning over the Thames, while shopkeepers sell bread, knives, and cheap trinkets to travellers passing through. On the southern bank sits Southwark, outside the city walls, outside the city laws, brothels, unlicensed taverns, bear-baiting pits. The Bishop of Winchester licensed the brothels here. Everyone knows it. No one pretends otherwise. The streets are mud and sewage. Open drains carry waste toward the river. Tenement rooms pack entire family into spaces smaller than a modern bedroom. Disease never leaves this place. Dysentery, typhus, fevers without names. Inside a tavern, the dice game turned violent. A knife flashes. The tavern keeper slams a club across the table before blood spills. In a doorway nearby, a prostitute coughs into a rag. A deep cough. Wet. Painful. No one pays attention. Everyone here is already sick with something. Stop 5. St. Bartholomew's Hospital. Late afternoon. Near Smithfield, monks move quietly through a long stone hall filled with beds. This is St. Bartholomew's Hospital? The closest thing medieval London has to medicine. A labourer with shattered ribs groans softly. A woman burns with fever. A child lies still with a black infection spreading across his leg. The monks do what they can. Herbs, prayer, bloodletting. They believe illness travels through bad air, so incense burns constantly. The air smells sweet. Underneath it, infection spreads easily. Water used to wash wounds is poured from one patient to another. No one understands contagion. In a corner bed, a sailor mutters deliriously about bodies piled in the streets of Calais. No one left to bury them. The monk, hearing his confession, crosses himself. God is punishing the French, he assumes. God would not punish London. Stop 6. The Tower of London. Dusk settle across the city. The Tower of London rises above the river like a block of pale stone. Inside its walls, England's machinery of power keeps moving. Soldiers drill in the courtyard. Blacksmiths hammer arrowheads. Clerks write endless record of taxes and shipments. War requires documentation as much as swords. A messenger rides in from the coast, his horse lathered with sweat. The message he carries spreads quickly among the royal officials. Plague confirmed in ports across the Channel, possibly already in southern England. For a moment, the room grows quiet. Someone suggests closing the ports. But London depends on trade. Close the docks, and food stops arriving. Merchants will riot. The decision is postponed. They will wait. They will pray. Stop 7, London after dark. Night falls quickly. Without street lamps, London becomes a city of shadows. Doors are barred. Families gather around small hearth fires burning smoky tallow candle that smell like hot animal fat. Chamber pots sit by the door, waiting to be emptied into the street at dawn. The night watch patrols with lanterns. 10 o'clock, and all is well. They call into the darkness. Thieves move quietly in the alleys between those calls. Inside a tavern, a heated argument grows louder. A merchant insists the plague will never reach London. A priest warns that God's judgment spares no city forever. A labourer listens silently and drinks his ale. Outside, the Thames moves slowly under the bridge. Dark. Indifferent. Above it, London sleeps. Crowded, filthy. Certain of its own permanence. The night before history changes forever. In 4 months, the first bodies will appear. At first, people will call it fever. Then the swellings will begin. Black marks under the skin. Fingers turning dark. Neighbors dying overnight. By winter, half the city will be gone. Whole streets silent. Churchyards overflowing. Survivors walking through a London that suddenly feels enormous and empty. But none of that exists yet. Tonight, the city is still alive. Still noisy. Still arguing about taxes and bread and war. The bells have stopped ringing. The last torches burn low. And somewhere out on the Channel, a ship sails toward the Thames, carrying something no one in London understands. Tonight was the last normal night. No one knew it. No one ever does. Subscribe to the channel so we can explore new lands and historical periods together in our upcoming videos.